So say you have to simplify something really complicated. So if I give you 8a cubed b to the minus 4 over 64 a to the minus 9 times b squared, and I wanted you to take that all to the 2/3 power. Now, don't fret, we'll take this step by step. So the first thing you should do is recall that when you have a quotient, so a over b, and you're taking it to a power, you can distribute that power. So in particular, you can distribute this 2/3 to the numerator and to the denominator. So let's do that. So our first step is we're just going to rewrite this and distribute this outside power to the numerator and to the denominator. Alright, so not so bad. Now the second thing you should do is now we're going to distribute it. And remember, if you have any, multiplication of terms and then you're taking all of that to the rth power, what you do is you distribute that power to every single one of the terms. So on the numerator, we're going to distribute it to these three terms, and then on the denominator, we're going to distribute it to these three terms. So let's do that. So this becomes 8 to the 2/3, a cubed to the 2/3, b to the negative 4th to the 2/3 on the top, and then on the bottom we get 64 to the 2/3, a to the negative 9 to the 2/3, and then b squared to the 2/3. So now we simplify term by term. So let's do this term by term. So 8 to the 2/3, let's make some room down here. So we have 8 to the 2/3 is the same thing as 8 to the 1/3 squared. And we know 8 to the 1/3 is the same thing as saying the cube root of 8 squared. And the cube root of 8 we know to be 2. And 2 squared is 4. So here we end up getting 4. Now for the a term on the numerator, we get a cubed to the 2/3. So we just multiply the exponents here. Since you're taking a power to a power, that's what you do with the exponents. So this becomes a to the 3 times 2/3, and these 3's cancel out. So what we're left with is a squared. Right? So this is starting to simplify. It's very nice. So now let's do the b in the numerator. So b to the negative 4 to the 2/3. Again, we just multiply. So this becomes b to the minus 4 times 2/3. And so multiplying, this becomes b to the negative 8 over 3. So I guess we'll just leave it as it is for now, since we can't really simplify. So great, now we did the numerator. So let's do the denominator now. So 64 to the 2/3 is the same thing as 64 to the 1/3 squared. So we want to find the cube root of 64 squared. So we want to find a number that when you multiply it by itself 3 times, you get 64, which is 4, squared, which is 16. So in the bottom, we get 16. Then for the a term, let's erase the scrap work. We get a to the negative 9 to the 2/3 power, which is a to the negative 9 times 2/3. And these can cancel. This becomes a 1, and this becomes a 3. So we're left with a to the negative 3 times 2, which is a to the negative 6. So let's write that down. And then finally, our last term, the b in the denominator. To simplify that, we get b squared to the 2/3, which is b times 2 to the 2/3, which simplifies as into b to the 4/3. So we write b to the 4/3. Now, unfortunately, we're not done because there's actually a way to combine these a's and these b's. So first, I'm going to get rid of all this yellow. I just wanted to illustrate that point. So our next step is to reduce. So the first thing we should do is cancel out this 4 and 16. So if you divide by 4 on both sides, you get 1 here on the top and the bottom. You get 1 here and 4 here. So you get a squared, b to the negative 8/3, and then 4 a to the negative 6 times b to the 4/3. Now, I want to recall that when you have any power x taken to an exponent and you're dividing it by x taken to a different exponent, what you do is you subtract the exponents. So this becomes x to the r minus s. So let's do that with the a's and the b's. So what we're left with, I'm going to pull out that 1/4 outside. Remember that 1/4 that we reduced. And then we get a to the r minus s, so the top minus the bottom, 2 minus 6. And then b to the negative 8/3 minus 4/3, right? I just subtracted the top exponent from the, I subtracted the bottom exponent from the top exponent, according to the rule. So, simplifying, we get 1/4. A, 2 minus 6 is minus 4. And then b, minus 8/3, negative 8/3 minus 4/3. Since the denominators are the same, we can just combine. So it becomes minus 8 minus 4 over 3, which is minus 12 over 3, which simplifies to negative 4. That's nice. That didn't turn out as nasty as it looked. So this becomes b to the negative 4 as well. So you can leave your answer like this since it's simplified, but if you want to go one step further, what you can do is remember that if you have any power x taken to a negative exponent, so you've got x taken to the negative n, for example. I'm having trouble writing this n down. What it does is that it gives you the reciprocal, the negative part of the exponent gives you the reciprocal. So x to the negative n is the same thing as 1 over x to the n, right? So we can rewrite this as 1 over 4 times 1 over a to the 4th. Let's rewrite that a there. Times 1 over b to the 4th. And then putting everything together, we get 1 over 4 times a to the 4th times b to the 4th. And then this is writing the number without any negative exponents, but these two equal the same thing. It's just a matter of notation, as it were.